Wells Fargo is proud to support diversity, equity, and inclusion in our employees, our customers, and the communities we serve, as well as through content on Carolina Impact. This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
Just ahead on Carolina Impact, this little green book kept African American travelers safe during segregation. A new exhibit tells the stories of the businesses where they found refuge. We'll take you to one that's still open. Plus, how this mother and son shed light on autism with their new dog treat store.
I'm Sheila Saints. Artists in Charlotte have a new home. We'll take you inside VAPA, the Visual and Performing Arts Center in Uptown Charlotte, coming up.
Carolina Impact starts right now.
Carolina Impact, covering the issues, people, and places that impact you. This is Carolina Impact.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Amy Burkett. A new exhibit on display at Central Piedmont highlights the importance of the Green Book. For African Americans traveling during segregation, the small book listed hotels, restaurants, and businesses where African Americans were welcome without harassment. As Carolina Impact's B. Thompson reports, one of those local businesses remains open.
At the start of the 20th century, Americans were traveling in that new invention, cars. But for African Americans, the journey was fraught with concerns about safety and traveling while black.
They wanted to travel, they wanted to take their families places, and they wanted to not have their families be exposed to any kind of racism.
That was an amazing thing, to be able to find out where you could eat, where you could stay, where, it was okay for black folks to do that.
For the small child traveling north with his parents and not knowing all the obstacles to his safe arrival at Grandma's house.
This is history. This is real. It's not imaginary that these things happened.
The librarian who wants to make sure students know this part of America's history. And the business family that never gave up.
We're the only one that's still here, owned by the same family and in the same spot.
Their lives all intersect with this small book, a pamphlet compiled in the 1930s by a black man, Victor Green, who worked for the railroad as a mail car carrier. Green wanted to provide African Americans a guide to safe traveling across the country during a time when doing so for black people could end in tragedy, particularly if their travels brought them through so-called sundown towns.
And so these places said that if you were African American, if you were Mexican, that you should not be caught after a certain time. After the sun went down, you would run the risk of losing your life.
We were traveling, 4 a.m. is still kind of dark. Sunlight comes up, we're going through this little small town, and my father notices that somebody's following us.
The international traveler remembers those trips as a child and how his parents shielded him from the dangers on the road.
History was not told as it should have been, and so this is correcting wrongs. It's letting people know actually, how did people live then? How did they travel? Everything was not as it is now.
The current exhibit on the Green Book is on display at Central Piedmont's main campus library. For Gloria Kelly, who brought the exhibit to Charlotte, it was important for students to learn.
It affected everybody, and so we need to know that, and now people will understand why people feel a certain way.
This little green book provided a roadmap for traveling African Americans. It gave them tips on where to sleep, where to eat, and where to stop to get some gas. It basically was an underground railroad in plain sight. At any given time, more than 150,000 copies were in circulation. And while they were not sold everywhere, one major American company did sell it to their customers.
And like the Esso company, now Exxon, was a backer of this.
Because they would have dealerships for black people.
Yeah, they did franchises.
From 1936 until 1966, African American businesses across the country would advertise in the books. Listed by city, it provided everything from hotels to entertainment venues and restaurants.
You see us right here by Billerville Luncheon. You can see the salsa club is on here.
It's a family affair for Jermaine Blackman. His grandfather put his chicken and ribs business on Charlotte's west side at Oak Lawn and Beatties Ford Road in 1953, and he advertised in the Green Book.
Because the Jim Crow area was a hard time, and people of color needed somewhere safe to be. And that's what the Green Book is all about, you know, being able to travel and be treated as humans, you know?
Because in losing this history, you lose the sense of what African Americans were able to accomplish for themselves.
Dr. Griffin points out the traveler's pamphlet pulled back the layers that covered up the history of black businesses which thrived during segregation and survived under the separate rules.
When we talk about African American history, we don't talk about African American business owners and the things that they were able to accomplish.
It also kept motorists up on changes in civil rights legislation that could impact their travels.
By the 1960s, you begin to see the Green Book advertising all of the new civil rights laws and which states were abiding by these civil rights laws. They're now telling the people who are reading the Green Book, who are purchasing the Green Book, these states now have laws that will protect you.
By the end of the 60s, as the laws became more enforceable, the Green Book in many ways became unnecessary because of the way integration began to open up the country. For third-generation business owner Jermaine Blackman, his family's stake in the community is firmly planted for the next generation, his children.
When we remodeled, business picked up, it did, and now we have more people coming to the community, so things have picked up. We're very proud to be in this community and part of the African American history.
And for this business owner and his family, the road ahead looks pretty good. For Carolina Impact, I'm B. Thompson.
Thanks so much, B. If you're interested in seeing the exhibit, it's on display at Central Piedmont Central Campus until May 6th. Well, National Autism Awareness Month takes place each April. Research shows autism spectrum disorder affects 1 in 44 children. Next, we meet a Charlotte mother who says baking dog treats brought her closer to her autistic son. As Carolina Impact's Rochelle Metzger reports, the pair recently opened a pet bakery and boutique created to help people with disabilities.
The kitchen is a sacred space for Miriam and Zach Buglio. The sweet smell of honey and pumpkin fills the air as they mix and roll mounds of dough.
Good job.
Mother and son working side by side, filling trays with homemade bone-shaped dog treats.
There is nothing more beautiful than to share this moment with Zach.
Buglio treasures these moments of calm and closeness with her son, who has severe autism and is nonverbal. For them, baking is a love language they both speak.
It fills me up with a lot of hope.
Hope for her son's future and a desire to prove people wrong.
Zachy has autism, but he can do.
Building on what Zach does best, making pup pastries, Buglio started Zach's Barkery and more. The dog treat business on Sharon Lakes Road benefits a nonprofit she founded to support people with autism and other disabilities. She says the store will offer employment opportunities.
If someone with high function autism, and just to teach him like life skills as far as customer service maybe.
And proceeds will help fund Blue Angels House, a communal living home for young adults with high-functioning autism.
We passed the inspection for building and everything.
The house in South Charlotte still needs approval from the state. It features a large activity space that can be used for fundraisers or rented out for events. The money will help supplement tenants who don't receive government assistance.
We still need more for our students and our adults with disabilities, more opportunities, more career paths.
Tracy Falda is Zach's teacher at Metro School, which serves students with cognitive disabilities in Mecklenburg County. Now 18, Zach is in a transition class for graduates. Falda says they incorporate lessons that will prepare him for his role as an entrepreneur.
So we do a lot of skills with him focused on baking, and the other things for the class would be getting his business ready. So we do the labeling for his packaging, we do the boxes.
There's also a time for play. For Zach, that's tossing a ball and swimming. He hits the pool daily for a bit of fun and exercise. Balda says working with nonverbal students like Zach is challenging at times, but they find other ways to communicate.
He is able to point and do things like that, so it does help. As you get to know him, you know his mannerisms, which is really fun too.
Autism spectrum disorder affects 1 in 44 children in the U.S., according to the CDC. It's 4 times more common in boys than girls, and an estimated 40% of people with ASD are nonverbal, like Zach. The disorder varies in severity and is often combined with other disabilities.
Zach, he has severe autism, he has ADHD, OCD, he has seizures, epileptic disorder, pre-diabetic, obesity.
Autism is a lifelong brain disorder that typically appears during the first 3 years of life. Boujleel says Zach was a toddler when she noticed drastic changes in his behavior.
And all of a sudden, when he turned about 2, he would respond at all in his name, and that's really like very odd.
Autism affects individuals differently, but there are signs to look for.
The lack of repeating what other people are doing, lack of eye contact, lack of pointing fingers.
Shagun Gar is an autism resource specialist with the Autism Society of North Carolina. The organization estimates that more than 65,000 people in the state are living with autism spectrum disorder. Gar remembers the day her eldest son, Ronik, was diagnosed.
After the word autism, everything was blank, everything was dark. I just didn't know what they said. I was in disbelief, I was in denial.
Ronik, now 23, is considered severe on the spectrum.
He cannot communicate verbally, he cannot cross the street, he cannot go take a shower by himself.
Gar says early intervention is key, so the first thing parents should do is get a proper evaluation from a developmental specialist. Once you have the diagnosis, start therapeutic intervention.
Give them tools, give them strategies, how to cope with if there is a meltdown, how would they communicate. So a good sensory diet might be helpful.
Gar says resource specialists can provide guidance to navigate community services and government assistance programs, but ultimately parents need to be their child's best advocate.
Education is key, understanding what autism is, how to help him, what should be done. Talk to people, have a good support system around you.
Miriam Boujleel says she's thankful for her mother and teachers like Tracy Falda for supporting her and Zach over the years. She says the mission of Zach's Barkery and More is to pay it forward.
God give me long life and health to make sure that I take care of him, I advocate for him and advocate for all kids with autism.
As long as she's around, Boujleel says those who can't speak will have a voice. For Carolina Impact, I'm Rochelle Metzger.
What a special story. Thanks so much, Rochelle. The Autism Society of North Carolina offers guidance on navigating early intervention and finding community services. Resource specialists are also available for free in every county. Well, a massive effort to upgrade Center City meant losing one of Charlotte's iconic buildings, Spirit Square. When news spread that Spirit Square was being demolished, the creative community joined forces to find a new facility. As Carolina Impact's Sheila Saints reports, now they're transforming a vacant building into something vibrant.
The Hal Marshall Center in Uptown Charlotte sat empty for years. You may recognize the building from that unique mural that faces 277. Mecklenburg County occupied the former Sears department store until 2017. Charlotte art leaders knew the vacant facility would be a perfect hub for the creative community. They collaborated with the county to transform the space. It was out with the old and in with the new. Now it's a vibrant arts incubator and nonprofit called the Visual and Performing Arts Center.
You will not find a more diverse collective of artists under one roof.
Arthur Rogers, a professional artist, is leading the effort.
And I'm like, well, why isn't this here in Charlotte? Why isn't there a space for artists that the community, the municipality is supporting to help them? Because every other major city in the country, has figured it out. And I refused to accept that it couldn't happen.
11 arts organizations joined together to form VAPA. They're repurposing the building into a center for more than 100 artists to create, rehearse, exhibit, and perform. The county is leasing the 157,000 square foot, 3-story building to VAPA. Members are motivated by the opportunity to create a space of their own.
The artists themselves help clear the building, help prepare the building, help to get it in the condition that it is currently under. But we've got big plans.
This space was, you could not see the floor. You couldn't really see across the room. It was covered in cubbies, big giant shelves, metal desks, wires all over the place. The walls were all different colors, so it looked nothing like this. So we just kind of cleaned everything out and painted it to make a blank slate.
Arthur's wife, Joanne Rogers, owns 9189 Studio Gallery, a main tenant.
I am thrilled. Their reaction is, everyone that comes in here is amazed by what we're doing, the level of work that's here, and they're looking for ways to support, which is exactly what's great about this space.
Collage artist John Miles leases one of the studios in the gallery, which also showcases his work.
One thing as an artist, you have to be around other artists. So this is the perfect opportunity to be around other artists, and it lets the juice just floweth.
How grateful are you to have this?
On a scale of 1 to 10, 14 and a half.
Jerry Talaferro says having his photography studio here provides inspiration.
It opens up a lot of possibilities. One of the great things is you're working around other artists, and it's kind of a, synergy.
Right now I'm experimenting with a flow medium with the acrylics, and so I'm trying to get a water look.
The center has shared spaces for working artists like Lee B. Williams, whose art was featured in the Art Pop Street Gallery. She showed us her process.
So I usually have several paintings going at a time so I can allow one to dry, not work on it too much.
The goal of VAPA is to keep the spaces affordable and accessible for artists. That's why artists only pay $3 a square foot per year to lease a space here.
A 12 by 14 studio would lease for about $500 annually.
The demand for artist spaces, affordable, accessible artist spaces, is ingrained in our mission statement because the need is that great.
So great that VAPA is nearly full, with more than 170 applicants on the wait list.
Cover for my friend's comic book that he's hiring me to draw.
Here you'll find a comic book illustrator, Jazz Art Charlotte, The Light Factory, and Charlotte's Off-Broadway. Studios for podcasting, recording music, and dancing. There's even a tea bar.
I think it is just having the confidence in your authentic self.
Kelly Semmelsberger is a founding member of VAPA, and her Charlotte Comedy Theater is an anchor tenant.
I thought the idea was brilliant, and I've always thought that artists should be together instead of all off doing our own little thing, the power of the collective. So this is a home to a lot of artists that need a place to play. So I'm over the moon.
The center is open to the public. VAPA believes in nurturing the relationship between the community and artists.
Make no mistake, this is a public amenity. It's forward-facing to the community. We want to make sure that our doors are open for the public to come in, to engage, communicate, if necessary, buy directly from the artist.
Much like the signatures on this wall, which one day will be painted over, the artists hope to make their mark on the Charlotte community for generations to come. For Carolina Impact, I'm Sheila Saints reporting.
Thank you so much, Sheila. The center provides low-cost studio and exhibition spaces through donation and grants. Well, I've got a special friend joining me now. It's Kennedy Warren. She is a junior at Nation Ford High School in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Kennedy, welcome to Carolina Impact.
Thank you so much.
Well, she wants to go into broadcasting, so she came for a tour today, and I decided to put her to work. She's going to help me introduce this last story. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Whenever you are.
As we count down to your favorite stories from the PBS playoffs, tonight we share the story viewers chose as their second favorite.
Back in 2020, Carolina Impact gave you a sneak peek at the movie filmed in Rowan County. No big-name Hollywood stars.
The real star was China Grove. Carolina Impact's Jeff Saunier and photojournalist Doug Stacker takes us back to the small town for the big premiere.
Yeah, China Grove is a long way from Hollywood, but you know those old Hollywood movies where the unknown gets discovered and then becomes a star? Well, China Grove may be about to have its own Hollywood moment. They're rolling out the Rowan County red carpet for the premiere of the film Fall Nights in China Grove. And on this fall night, everybody who helped put China Grove on the big screen gets to see China Grove on the big screen.
So obviously, we wanted to take a second to come out and just thank you, China Grove, for making this movie. Without you guys, people in town, there is no Fall Nights in China Grove. Without further ado, Fall Nights in China Grove.
Well, I'm getting tired working hard every day.
Yeah, here's the opening scene from Fall Nights in China Grove, set in this high school hangout diner. Later, well, here's the diner again.
Can we get you something to drink? Yeah. Should have water.
And here's the diner again.
I'm taking an order, Gary.
This is a prank, right? You know the whole face thing, it's makeup.
And if it all looks a little familiar, well, most of the diner footage was actually filmed at Gary's Barbecue, a fixture here in China Grove since the 70s. Looking pretty much like customers at Gary's see it every day, except in the movie scene, the customers are actually all actors.
Hey, Gary, look.
And extras, filming in the restaurant nights and Sundays when Gary's was closed.
I usually just left and let them have a run of the place and give them my phone number, and they'd call me when they got through. And I trusted them.
You ready, prima donna? Same story for these bar scenes filmed at the Lucky Turnaround, a friendly neighborhood everybody knows your name beer joint on Highway 29. Although, if you look closely, you might spot a few of the regulars making their Hollywood debut.
I'm not sure those rules apply when everything on the truck is undocumented.
I was just a stand-in shooting pool while the actors were behind or working at the bar and stuff.
Could be your big break.
Yeah.
And then there's the old C&D salvage yard in China Grove, which has several scenes in the movie, doubling here as a late-night crime scene.
How much is that we can get for all of this?
Box truck full of scrap metal, maybe 25.
They would go down to the scrap pile, set up all their gear and everything, and shoot for like hour after hour, like sometimes till like 2 and 3 in the morning. All at night. Yes, it was.
Now, were you in the movie?
No, I was not. 3 kids.
Yeah.
So,
So how exactly did China Grove find itself in a feature film?
We wanted to show up and really give them a show that they could say, hey, I made that movie, because they did. We didn't make this movie. China Grove made this movie.
But when Horace Priester and Alex Kapitanovich wrote this movie more than a year ago, they'd never even heard of China Grove. Until 2 producers on the film, who grew up in China Grove, told Priester and Kapitanovich about their hometown.
You've got to check out this town. It's so quaint and charming. And we drove up here and checked it out and never looked back. It really had already a lot of these locations that were already written, just ready to go.
A lot of people have heard about it, so when we come knocking on a door that we haven't knocked on for the last 6 months, they're like, oh, we know you, like, the movie boys are here. Like,
what the movie boys found in China Grove was the perfect small town setting for their first film. From the Red House on Main Street that became the movie home of one lead character.
Hey, t-shirt guy. You always throw girls a shirt and walk away?
To the daily trains through downtown China Grove that were filmed at full speed, along with slow motion trains from the nearby Spencer Shops.
Woo! Got my back! I got your back!
But Priester and Kapitanovich say the toughest scenes to film were the high school football scenes at South Rowan Stadium.
You have multiple things going on. You have a game going on the field. You have people on the sidelines, and then you have people in the stands, and then you also have sports announcers in the press box, all done at different times.
Down! Gotta have a touchdown here. Myers takes out, turns, hands it to Boozy over the top and in for 6.
It's where the guy flips over into the end zone. That's me and my son-in-law that actually flip him.
David Lambert is usually the resource officer here at South Rowan, except for that one night when he put on the pads and joined the actors and the high school players on the field, on camera.
They kept saying, don't get nobody hurt, don't get nobody hurt. And he said, no, flip me. So it was awesome. So I kept nudging my wife, and I was there for that, I was there for that.
And Officer Lambert was there for the premiere, too, along with everybody else from China Grove who wanted to see their little town on the big screen.
I thought the movie was great. They done China Grove well.
Well, really, we were just hoping everyone loved it. We've been here for a year. I think it was just fun for them and equally fun for us just to pull up to that theater and you see the street filled with people, and right there in lights it says Fall Nights in China Grove, which not only us has been dreaming of, but now this whole town has been dreaming of, and it all came true.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Next week, we'll finish up the PBS Charlotte playoffs with our #1 most requested story. Before we go tonight, we'd love your feedback on the show and your story ideas. You can send both to feedback@WTVI.org. Well, I want to thank our friends from Trinity Oaks Retirement Community in Salisbury for being in our studio audience tonight. They were great. That's all the time we have. Thanks so much for joining us. We always appreciate your time. And we look forward to seeing you back here again next time on Carolina Impact. Good night, my friends.
A production of PBS Charlotte. Wells Fargo is proud to support diversity, equity, and inclusion in our employees, our customers, and the communities we serve, as well as through content on Carolina Impact.